So, XDefiant had a rather meaningful update in the process leading to launch here today from Mark Rubin himself, executive producer on the project. Today we're going to be running down what was said, how this relates to us the players, and now when we can expect launch for XDefiant, and what you need to know with all that. As we go along, drop your thoughts down below. Do you like the update here for XDefiant's release timetable? Do you think it's releasing sooner rather than later? What do you think here if it drops amidst the upcoming reveals and beta period for Modern Warfare 3? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below, but if you enjoy the video, you find it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to stay updated with all things Modern Warfare 3, XDefiant, and even more FPS content in the future. I'd love to have in the community. And finally, check out my friends over at G Fuel for 30% off certain items in the month of September, with code ESPRESSO on things like tubs of hype sauce, MS Melon, hibiscus tea, as well as starter packs, all linked down below if you guys are interested. We'll touch on that a little more later, but for now, let's jump into the new information you should know about XDefiant's release window and where you are in this whole submission process that's been going on for a little while now. So today's insight comes from a blog post directly on the Ubisoft website titled An Update on the Release of XDefiant from Mark Rubin, and it goes as follows. Bear with me because there is a decent bit here to touch on, but firstly, following a brief little introduction and like, hey, hello, how you doing type of thing, he started out by defining a little bit of the submission process that XDefiant has been in for a little while now, where it says, submission is a part of development where we give the game to first parties, which is Sony, Xbox, and others, to check that the game works correctly in their environments. To get to that, they have to self-test with internal QA and compliance teams to try and find any issues that might get flagged in the submission process, that being something from the development team itself in-house. Once we've fixed or completed all the tasks that we want or think are needed for submission, we then spend about 2 to 3 weeks prepping and validating a CM or candidate master that we think is the final version of the game for submission. It then goes through 1 week of heavy QA and compliance testing by several Ubisoft teams. If it passes, then it goes to first parties to be certified for release. First parties take a week to get their final report on the submission and give us a pass or not pass with a list of must fixes for the next submission. Also, to be clear, during the submission process, the QC team or quality control team at Ubisoft are putting the build through the ringer, looking for functionality bugs, and another team at Ubisoft, divided up into PC, Sony, and Xbox groups, are looking for compliance bugs. These are 2 different types of bugs. Functionality means, does this gameplay feature work as intended? As in, there's a bug where the damage for your weapon is altered after using a certain ability. This is not something the first parties will be looking for, unless of course it prevents them from testing. Those are on us to find. Compliance bugs are the ones that relate to the systems and overall experience that the first parties expect from games on the platform, i.e. are trophies properly being tracked, is my friends list being properly updated with game status, and so on. After we get a pass from all first parties, we are then ready to ship and need probably 1 to 2 weeks before launch, depending on the date of the pass. If we don't pass, then we need to spend about a month fixing the issues that came up from the submission and repeat the above process. So you can see that this is something that does vary greatly in terms of timetable, depending on where they are in development. If you submit something for the very first time and it goes through, well, great, you have everything done in a couple of weeks' time. But it basically doubles, triples that time if you have to submit twice, 3 times, 4 times. So that then leads to the next part of where are they in this? Mark Rubin stated, at the end of July, we started the process and we got our first results back in mid-August, which was a not pass. We then realized we had more work related to compliance than we had anticipated. If it had passed, then we'd be able to ship at the end of August, but it didn't, so we've had to spend the last 3 to 4 weeks fixing those issues and getting ready to do another submission. We are currently in the CM prep part of that process and will hopefully be submitting the first parties in a little less than 2 weeks. If that passes cleanly, then we could be looking at a mid to end of September release. There is, however, a likely scenario where we get a conditional pass, meaning we have to do a day 1 patch with some final fixes to ensure compliance. If we do need to do a day 1 patch, then that pushes our date out to early to mid-October. The final bit is a little bit of a recap and as to why there's no firm release date, in which they said having millions of players play your game long before it's ready is not normal. Not being afraid to show an unfinished game to millions of people with all its flaws is not normal. These were real tests and not just marketing events. So when it comes to when we will release, the real answer is as soon as we can. And we'll continue to update you with more information as we have it. They then wrapped up by talking a bit about how it is all work in progress here, how it's being built out for the community, and it's something that they want this to be the community's game. Reiterating that things even past this last beta that we saw in, what was it, I think June or something like that, where they added map voting. Search and destroy, a mode like that is going to be coming here, not necessarily at launch, but shortly thereafter, as examples of building a game out based off of community feedback solely. So that kind of stuff is great to hear in that regard. And I do love the absolute full transparency that we've seen in all aspects here so far with XDefiant since we started talking about it here on the channel. It's great to hear how the actual final steps and every stop along the way in those final steps works out. And honestly, it provides that insight that allows us to, I don't want to say build false expectations, but more so just understand more fully. I mean, when you take a look at the behind the scenes of most games, it's a question mark for a lot of people, myself included. I've covered games for a long time, but I'm still incredibly ignorant to this kind of stuff. So to have those questions answered, it's awesome to see. Now, that said, what does this mean for the updated release target? Of course, they did state explicitly that best case scenario, we're looking at mid to late September. I mean, technically speaking, we're already kind of in mid-September. I don't know about you guys, but my mind kind of always works in like the 1st to the 10th of every single month is the beginning, 11th to the 20th is the middle, and then the 21st to either the 28th, 30th, or 31st is the end of every month. So while technically speaking, that might not be entirely accurate, to me, I always kind of consider we're already in mid-September. So maybe late September is best case scenario, depending on when this blog post was written out. If it's something that was written today, we have a little bit longer, but if it was something that was scheduled for today and written, say, last week at some point, that's something that maybe first party certification is actually ready, in which case they said they only need 1 to 2 weeks before launching, depending on if it does have that pass. If it's a conditional pass, well, of course, that means a little longer to craft the update that is necessary for day one that comes along with that. So fingers crossed here, the next 1 to 2 weeks, we end up seeing the game launch or so. But again, do bear in mind that that is a very optimistic launch date here at this. It very well could be something that now we're looking at competing with COD Next in the multiplayer reveal for Modern Warfare 3, the beta for Modern Warfare 3. And then, of course, that sort of tail end of October is honestly pretty wide open, because then we'll have that time from the beta to then when Modern Warfare 3's campaign early access goes live, that you have 2 weeks of basically players just wanting to probably play anything other than Modern Warfare 2. But it is very much so looking like October is going to be a very busy month for FPS fans here. And again, you're going to have your pick of the litter, which is definitely nice. I do think that, unfortunately speaking, this is one of those cases where it just didn't work out proper timing. I mean, again, I've said it before, I really do think that both of these games can coexist. I think XDefiant can find its audience and have a healthy number of players that are dedicated directly to that game. But also, just again, the sheer fact of a game called Call of Duty, 20 years in the making with this franchise, with millions of dollars in marketing budget alone, billions for each project. When you're pulling from the same pool of FPS fans, 2 brand new games, one with a ton of market dominance, launching at the same time, it just might not be ideal for the launch of one of those. Now, here's the thing. Again, I've said it before, I truly do hope that both games flourish. I think competition is much needed and incredibly healthy for consumers in this industry. So fingers crossed both of these do well here with this, but for now, that's where we're at with XDefiant and what we know so far in an updated capacity. Of course, we'll keep you up to date with everything you need to know as it happens. We're going to start jumping back into more Modern Warfare 3 coverage and other COD coverage here. The last couple of videos, unintentionally, were all XDefiant videos. So if you're somebody that was here for COD, I apologize, but we're getting back to it here in the next couple of days. But for now, that is where we're at here at this with XDefiant's launch and what we know so far in that updated timetable. So that's where we're going to wrap it up. Let me know your thoughts down below. Are you guys looking forward to this? Do you think it's poor timing? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. Before we wrap everything up, make sure you check out my friends over at G Fuel, code Espresso, getting you 30% off certain items in the month of September. As always, hype sauce tubs, hibiscus tea, MS melon, starter kits. So if you guys want to grab a restock or try something out for the very first time, now's as best a time as any with code Espresso, linked down below. But that said, again, drop your thoughts below. If you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to stay there with all things XDefiant, Modern Warfare 3, and other FPS content. Like I said, this fall is going to be incredibly busy, and I'd love to have in the community. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care, and peace.